What's up guys, it's Wholesome Joe back with another how to build a 3D printed Ghostbusters Proton Pack tutorial. This time we're going to be printing something that a lot of people have been talking about lately. You know what it is. The bumper. Let's get into it. Now, we're not printing the thong bumper. The thong bumper as it is called, and I know that a lot of people have been talking about it because they've seen it in the new Ghostbusters Frozen Empire trailer, and I know a lot of people think it's really cool looking, and you know, more power to them. It's not really my cup of tea, but if you like it, awesome. I think the yellow looks cool, but that's the talk right now, so I thought it would be fun for us to print the bumper. Now, originally I said I wasn't going to print every single piece, or I wasn't going to show you how to print every single piece, but since I made that statement, I've seen a lot of questions and comments in the Facebook groups about how to orient some of these pieces, and I thought it might be super helpful for you guys if I show you how to do at least some of the more difficult ones, and the bumper is one of the most talked about, and it is one of the more trickier ones to do, so I'm going to show you how to do it. We're going to do two different sections of this. We're going to show you how to print the full bumper as one piece, even though I do not have a print bed big enough to do so, and I'm going to show you how to print the bumper in two pieces that is meant for smaller beds like a CR10. I'm going to keep this very simple and concise as possible so that we don't waste a lot of time. So we're just going to jump right into it. So I'm going to show you go ahead and open our files. I went ahead and downloaded the latest version of this. If you have a different version, you might have different files than I do. So you just kind of have to follow along and do the best you can. There's a lot of different versions of the bumper now, so we're going to try to keep it simple. There is the, of course, like I was saying before, the thong bumper, which we're not going to print right now, but if you want to print it, the files are in here. Taco Belly has been working on that. And there's a couple of other people who have files for the thong bumper. So if you want to print the thong bumper, more power to you. We're going to print the normal bumper, but there's two versions of the normal bumper in here. There is a removable version that has little tracks that you can print that will attach to the cyclotron or the sync gen to allow you to remove the bumper, similar to the way it does on a HasLab pack, and kind of how it does in Ghostbusters Afterlife for those of you who want to be able to remove your cyclotron easier, especially if you're going to have the whole cake with the lights inside so you can like show off the inside of your cyclotron. In this specific video, I want to keep things simple, so I'm just going to show you how to do the normal standard bumper, tried and true, gold standard Ghostbusters Proton Pack bumper. So that is going to be which one? I believe it is going to be this one. Let's find out. So I'm just going to drag it over. Also, just a note, I had issues with this earlier. If you have a problem with, like if you go to open the file and you don't see it, and you think, oh, where is it? It's not there. I spent 15 minutes figuring this out. All you got to do is zoom out. For some reason, it doesn't load the bumper on the build plate like a lot of prints do. I don't know why that is. Doesn't really matter. It's not that big of a deal. So we'll just move it over. And I moved it too far. We'll move it back to the center. And as you can see, I have a CR10. It's not big enough. You'd need like a 500 by 500 size bed probably to print this in one piece, which I do recommend that you do if you have a bed big enough. If you don't have a bed big enough, don't worry, because you can print it just fine in two pieces and then put it back together and do a little bit of finish work, which you're going to have to do some finish work on this anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But for the sake of showing everybody how to do it in the different methods that they may have available to them, we're going to do it in one piece. And the easiest way to do this, you may have seen some people try to print it like this, all the way upside down, flat on the bed. Let me rotate that a little bit more. That's not right. Come on. It's being weird. Okay. There it is. Okay. Flat on the bed, like so. Do not print it like this. It won't print very well. You'll have a lot of stuff to clean up, and it'll be not very stable. it'll just be a mess if it prints at all. So I highly recommend you don't print it that way and instead print it this way. So we're going to turn it back around. We're going to have it facing us. And it's going to look pretty much like it looks when you look at it on the Proton pack. That's how you want it oriented. But we're going to drop it down to the bed. And I forgot to mention at the beginning of this video, I am using Cura. That is my slicing software. You can use whatever you want, whatever you're familiar with. I just like Cura. I've been using it for a long time. This will apply to any slicing software. If you are using a different version of that slicing software, you just have to find the settings in your particular slicing software. If you know how to use one, you can figure out most of them. I just like to use Cura. If you don't give me any hate. I just like it. It's easy to use for me, and I've used it for a long time, so I'm going to use it. So we're going to drop it down to the build plate, like so. You want it to be touching the build plate. And as you can see, we don't have any supports there. So all you're going to do now, literally all you're going to do now, is you're going to come over here to your support settings. We're going to print this at 0.2 layer height because there's no reason to print it at anything more detailed than that. Some people might try to print it in 0.12, but I promise you the amount of time that you save, or the amount of time that it's going to take to print it, is not going to be worth the amount of time that you might save in this post-production process, because you're going to have to do some sanding on it anyway. It doesn't really matter. So don't waste time trying to print it at 0.12 or anything more detailed than that, because this is not a very detailed piece to begin with. And then we're going to print it with 15% infill. You might want to go up to 20. You probably could even print this at 10 and it'd be plenty strong, but I like to use 15. I keep my infill pattern at cubic. You could also use gyroid or zigzag. Both would probably work, or grid. Any of those are pretty strong. My printing temperature is going to be 215. That's the temperature that my filament happens to like. If it's different for you, it might be different for you. My build plate is going to be 50 degrees. That also might be different for you depending on your printer and depending on the filament that you are using. Print speed is going to be different depending on what printer you have. I'm printing at 50. It might be slower, faster for you depending on what printer you have. If you've been printing already with your printer, just leave those settings as they are. You don't need to change them. And then the most important thing is down here under support. We're going to choose generate support by putting a check in this box, and we're going to use normal supports, and we're going to change the support placement to touching the build plate. Now what this is going to do, because we can't slice this because it doesn't fit on the build plate, all this is going to do is put supports under the bottom of this section that's not supported, that's floating in the air. I'm pretty sure you don't need supports in these holes. They'll print just fine without supports. And that's pretty much it. Slice it, you're on your way. That's for the full size bumper. But we're not going to be printing the full size bumper because our printer is not big enough. So I'm going to show you how to do the 2-part bumper. So the way we're going to do that, we're going to get rid of this. We're going to come back to our files. And I should note, if you don't know where to find this within the files, it's going to be under the shell folder and then the bumper folder. There's a lot of files in there, folders in there, so just find the shell and then the bumper folder. So we're going to come in here, and now we're looking for the 2-piece bumper. So we're going to come to this file right here. There's going to be a 1 and a 2, and they're named 01_L and 02_L. We're going to start with this one, and I'm just going to drag it. You could also go to File, Open, or click the little File button up here on the left, which you can't see because my window is dragged over too far. I can show it to you if you see it right there, up there in the left. You can also do it that way. So I'm going to zoom out because it did that thing again. Drag it to the center of my build plate. And then we're going to do exactly the same thing we did before. We're going to rotate it about 90 degrees until it's sitting flat with this part right here on the build plate. And I like to center it up a little bit more, so we're going to center it so it's nice and center. If your bed is level, you don't got to worry about it too much. And then we're going to do one more thing, but otherwise it's going to be basically exactly the same as we did. Now you'll notice we have this little puzzle jigsaw piece here. This is where the two sides connect. And because of that, we're going to need an extra support, and I'll show you why in just a second. So we're going to leave everything like it is. And also, I like to use a raft on my prints. You could probably get away with a skirt or a brim, but I like to use rafts because my bed is not particularly level. I think it's warped, and the raft kind of helps me cheat a little bit to print things when my bed is not exactly level, because I level it and level it and level it and it's still kind of off. But the raft helps me be able to print even though my bed is warped. So you can use a raft if you want. You don't have to. Whatever works for you. So we're going to go ahead and slice this just like it was. It's going to take 11 hours and 14 minutes and $1.71 a filament. And I highly recommend you do this every time you print something. Is go to the preview tab so you can see where it actually put the supports, right? And you see all of this area is supported. And we got our raft down there. And you notice there's no supports in any of these holes because you don't need them in the holes. For some reason you find that you do. You can always turn on supports for everywhere, and you'll have supports in those holes as well. But I'm pretty sure we don't need them, so I'm going to leave them off. So now, if you come over here, and I'm going to move my window back over so you can see this. You see this little slider on the right hand side. This lets you go layer by layer so you can see how this is going to print, and you can look at this and be able to tell if anything is going to print in midair or that might not be supported and you need to add a support. So we'll go up, we'll watch it, and I can already see where there's going to be where we're going to need a support. You see it right there. So that's printing in midair. So if we were to print this like this, this part is going to fail because there's no support there. So what do we do about that? We could go in and add a support blocker to this area and have it, and still use the auto supports and have it just block the area that we don't want supported. But I find that to be convoluted, so I'm not going to do it that way. The easiest thing to do for me is to come over here to my custom supports. And if you don't have this option in your slicer, if you're not using Cura, you may have another way to do custom supports. But if you are using Cura, you can go to the Marketplace tab over here and install this plugin. It is called Custom Support Cylinder. If you don't have it, it'll be right in here. You can just search for it. Custom Support Cylinder. And it may not find it because I already have it installed, which looks like it's going to be the case. But you install it and then it'll appear right here. So we're going to come over here. I have mine set to 5. You can change it to whatever size you want. I like to use the cube, and then you're just going to drop a support right there in the center of that. And then that's all you got to do. And then you hit slice again. Let it do its thing. Going to take 11 hours and 14 minutes and still only cost $1.71. Click on the preview tab again, and you will see that we now have a support right there. So now when that gets to that spot, it will not be printing in mid-air. You want to make sure it's as centered as possible. You also could possibly throw another support or two in there if you want to be sure, but I think that is probably good to go. Once you have printed this piece, you'll be able to print the next piece. So super simple. Let's get rid of this and we'll go back we'll go back to our bumper folder and we're going to grab the O2 file and we're going to drag it in, get rid of this, zoom out. I don't know why that's saying that. We'll get rid of that. And then same thing, select it and drag it back to the build plate. I always drag it too far. Put it in the middle, and then once again, we're going to rotate it about 90 degrees until it's sitting on its side, like so. And then, same as before, all we have to do is make sure it's center. I probably could be a little bit more center. Probably something like that is good. And then all you got to do, make sure your supports are touching build plate, and then hit slice. Once again, I don't think you need supports in the holes. If you do, you can choose everywhere and have supports placed there too. So that's going to take 10 hours and 45 minutes to print and cost $1.55 a filament. So this bumper is going to cost you about $3.50 worth of filament to print, not too much. And then these two parts connect with this puzzle piece right here, and you can use some super glue, or I've even used contact cement, just some really strong glue to put those pieces together. And then you're going to use some putty or Bondo to fill in the crack that you're going to have right here, and then you just sand that down. It's super easy. I think this is probably the best way to do it if you don't have a printer that's big enough to print the whole entire bumper. So we're going to go over to the preview tab again, and this one's even easier because we don't have like all of those overhangs. So if we look at this, you can see that literally everything, and you can tell that those holes will be fine because they're always grabbing on to the next part of it. And see, but by the time it gets there, right here, it's already closing up, so you don't need supports there. And then you keep on going up, you can see that you just don't need supports anywhere. So just like that, easy peasy, not a difficult print at all. It's just going to take some time, and then once you get both of the sides printed, you can just stick them together and you got your bumper. Now, what I was saying earlier about the removable bumper, and I'll show you this really quick in case you want to do this. We'll come back to prepare. We'll get rid of this bumper. Come back to our bumper folder, and then I'm going to do the removable section, which is right there, the removable. We're going to open that up, zoom out like so. There it is. And then I'm going to move it back to the center, and I'll show you what's different about it. And you can see right there, you see this notch, this cutout right there. The other bumper is just flat right here. There's no notch there. This is so that you can remove the bumper like they do in Ghostbusters Afterlife. And in order to do that, you also need to print another piece, which is also in the bumper folder, called track left and right. I'll just open one of them. We don't need to see both of them, just to give you an idea. And there it is right there. We'll move it to the build plate, and you can see how that kind of works. And you need this piece, and it works in conjunction with that to have a removable bumper if you so desire. Like I said, I'm not going to show you how to do all of the orientation for that, because I think if you're planning on using that, you probably have a pretty decent idea of how to print that. So we're going to leave that at that. All right, guys, so now you should know how to print your very own 3D printed Ghostbusters Proton Pack standard OG bumper like this one, or this one that I've already started working on. In our upcoming videos, we're going to start working on the post-production process. We're going to have some more print orientation videos like this one. And as you can see, I've already started doing some puttying and sanding to this bumper. And there's going to be a lot more videos to come to show you how to build your very own 3D printed Ghostbusters Proton pack. Make sure to smash the like button and the subscribe button if you like these videos. If you have any questions about this video or any of the other videos, leave a comment in the comments below. I will answer any and all questions, no matter what the question may be, or at least I will try. If you are working on your own Ghostbusters Proton Pack 3D printed build right now, I would love to know about it. I would love to hear about where you are in the process. And until next time,